All right, welcome to the Next Level Experience Hangout. I have here one of my favorite authors that completely changed the way that I journal now. It's Bill Donius, New York Times bestseller author. Bill, welcome. Thank you very much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to spend the next 20 minutes with us and give us some insights about what you're doing right now and get to know you a little bit better before you come to the Next Level Experience event in June 22nd to the 24th. So, Bill, welcome. Thank you very much for having spent some time with us.
Thanks, Raul. I'm a big fan of yours too, by the way.
Really, man? That's great, man. That's great because we met about, what, a year ago?
Yes, in Chicago at a business seminar that I was leading for a group of business CEOs, and you were there and made a great impression, and I appreciate what you're doing in business, but moreover, where you're trying to take people in life. That's, I think, a lot more important.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it because, you know, about a year ago when you and I had this conversation, I had a huge breakthrough because the way that I journal, the way that I create things, I always think very analytic. But your talk, you know, I don't know if I told you this, completely changed the way that I journal now because you showed me a way that you could tap into that creative part of you, you know, just like this. You know, and very few people in my life have actually been able to influence me that way in a short period of time. So I want to just dig into, you know, what you're doing right now, you know, talk a little bit about your book and talk a little bit about how you're able to, you know, teach people how to tap into that part of their brain that is the most creative part about them.
Great. I think that I also can relate to what you just said because I spent 20 years as a bank CEO. So I'm very familiar with the linear logical path. And it was 16 years ago that I learned this methodology that my book is actually about, Thought Revolution. And it was particularly valuable for me as that analytical thinker to get a different perspective. And what I'm referring to specifically is Roger Sperry won a Nobel Prize for his discovery of hemispheric division in the brain, which is to say that the left hemisphere does different things than the right hemisphere. So this work is really specifically about applying neuroscience. It's about applying a methodology that's easy to learn to be able to tap into the right hemisphere of the brain and get this completely fresh, different perspective that's also more intuitive, it's more creative, it's all the other things basically that the left brain is not. So it just gives us a different perspective, and rather than having someone else tell us what to do or what to think, we're actually, the reason it's valuable is we're getting this from our own brain. And so it's similar to those moments we have when we have that flash of insight, maybe while driving or showering or bicycling or whatever, but only difference is, importantly, this happens on demand when we need it, when we're solving a problem, we're looking at an issue, so that's why it's very valuable.
You know, one of the things that I think you and I could relate, because you come from the banking industry and my background is in real estate. So we are very analytic because we have to analyze every single deal, because every percentage, every mistake that we make will cost our clients or investors a lot of money.
Exactly.
So talk to us about the transition between what you did for money, or what I call, you know, making a living on money, and now living your passion. You know, how was that transition between being a bank CEO and saying, you know what, I want to do this, I want to inspire people, I want to create a new thought revolution when it comes to you know, thinking different in corporations and individuals? Talk to us about that.
Great question. Thank you. It actually was I guess the continuation of this process where I was able, in my corporate career, I went to business school and I climbed the corporate ladder and made it to the top and was doing really well. And then as I was a couple of years before turning 50, I thought, is this all there is? Is there anything else that I want to do in my life? And I felt comfortable. I was blessed financially and things were going really well. But after 20 years of banking, I thought, you know what? there is more, and so I used this own process that I'm describing to tap into and discover what that was for me. And it was really about figuring out how to help others, how to give back, but in a different kind of way, not necessarily financially, as much as just helping people figure out what's important to them. And so what came up for me in doing this work is to write a book, to go out and do this work in the world, help companies think differently about their strategy, as well as help individuals think differently about what's important to them in their life. And so I was a little bit leery about doing this, but as I did the interviews initially experimentally, and I began to see, and of course over the time I actually interviewed 200 people, I got really clear on the fact that this work was really helpful to people, and I thought, wow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, because this is very important to me. I'm very passionate about it. I can see the transformational difference that it can make in people's lives, and so I thought, wow, it's time that I get on with it. I've always been a little bit of a procrastinator, so although I don't feel like I was procrastinating earlier in my career, it was just stepping stones, and I think this was the what's next for me.
So this was your next level. So when you talked about like going to the next level, there's always a next level.
Exactly, and I wouldn't have imagined when I first got into banking 20 years ago that I would ever do anything else, because I enjoyed it. It was very personally satisfying. The company was doing well. We were growing dramatically. But after 20 years, I thought, okay, I've had that experience. What is it that I want to do next with the rest of my life? And I thought, I don't want to just coast this out until 65 and then go fish somewhere on a pond. I felt like there was more that I wanted to be involved working with people in a more meaningful way than just making them a residential home loan or funding their business. As important as those things are, I felt there was more, and I needed to discover what that was.
I think that's the reason that you and I connected so well about a year ago, because when I saw you becoming a New York Times bestseller, being able to create this change on people's lives, that really inspired me, because I'm the CEO of a real estate company as well, and I felt the same way you felt about 2 years ago, that there has to be something more, that there has to be something more that I was created for in life. And that's what inspired me to create this next level experience. And I believe that if people live their purpose, they're going to make a bigger impact. That it's not just about making money. That is, money is easy for those people like you and I that could create a business. But if we could live our purpose and really do what we are created here in this world, man, exponential growth happens. Like you and I having this conversation here. Imagine how many people are going to be impacted when you come to the event, and you really teach them how to be creative. Because I think that when you look at Apple, they are where they are because of innovation. I think I read somewhere that right now in the corporate world, the most valuable commodity is creativity. That they're hiring CEOs right now based on how creative they are, because people don't want to buy the same thing over and over again. They want innovation. They want new things. So I definitely honor you, man, because you've taken a step forward of a whole different level. I know that you just did a Tedx Talk or a TED Talk. Talk to us about that.
First, let me comment. I think that what you're saying is absolutely on track. And the Tedx Talk that I did, which is on YouTube under William Donius, really speaks to the fact that about how our brains work, and in some ways how our brains work against us actually as we get older relative to innovation, creativity, and intuition. And what I mean by that is that we begin to get ingrained in our thoughts and processes, and in some ways that's good because we get really familiar and we get kind of in that track. So we might be able to do something a little incrementally better, faster, but the issue is how can we do it differently, or how can we innovate and come up with a brand new solution as we get older. And I've seen this now with the dozens of companies, big to Fortune 500s that I've worked with. We get in these tracks, and it's very, very difficult to bust out of those tracks and get those fresh thoughts. Yet those fresh thoughts are exactly what we need, and we need to learn how to think about those and tap into those, because it's exactly what we need to figure out where we ultimately want to go in life, what our purpose is. We want to be intentional in what we do and authentic in who we are, and yet it's very hard to do that because most of us end up and I was in this trap, I guess, earlier in life too, up until about age 40, is we can get into these patterns and they're working reasonably well for us, but it's not really who we are or what we want to do long term. But because they're familiar and comfortable, we tend to just default, and maybe we're, as they say, married and mortgaged, and so we're kind of like, okay, let's just stay in this pattern. I guess that's all there is to life. And we don't know that inside our own brains is this ability to go deep within in our subconscious, tap into our right brain, and to figure out that there may be alternatives, and those alternatives may be something that's much, much, much more important than money or just doing the same thing or the safety and security. I mean, it doesn't mean we have to give all that stuff up, but we can be much more satisfied, much more involved and creative and spontaneous and intuitive. And that kind of authentic life is, I found, way more meaningful than anything else. I mean, candidly, I make a lot less than I did as a CEO of a public company. So I, in some ways, miss that, but I'm 10 times more satisfied now. And and it's much more satisfying to the people that I work with, the conversations that I have, the companies that I work with. It's 10 times more satisfying.
And I think that's worth more than money, because at the end of the day, success without fulfillment is ultimate failure. If we're not fulfilled in what we do every single day, then we're not successful. I recently spoke at an event this past weekend. There were about 200 real estate entrepreneurs, and I will say 70% of them came to me and they said they were not satisfied in what they do, that they were only doing it for the money. And I could relate because I was doing it for the money. I was doing things for money, and we get involved in a pattern of the lifestyle. A lady came to me and she says, she makes a couple of $1 million, but she's a slave to her company. She's a slave to her job because she can't let go of that company because of the lifestyle that she has. And obviously, that's a lot. That's very common for a lot of people here in America. But I think what you and I represent is being able to break through that and say, enough. I don't want to just be a slave to a company because of the money. I want to do what I'm here to do, which is inspire, lead, and teach others to live their full potential. Because I look at you and you are excited, you're energetic. You're not the regular bank CEO. If you go to a bank right now, if you meet a CEO of a bank, it's like two different people. Like you can't even be the same person.
Well, I thank you, and I think what is important, the distinction to make, Raul, is that everybody has to find their thing, and so that's what I really applaud with the work that you're doing in taking people to the next level. Is that next level for everyone is going to be perhaps completely different than it may be for me or for you or for somebody else. So it's really more about finding out, going on that path of discovery, tapping in, finding out whatever that is. And what I like about your approach is that you're not saying the answer is real estate. I'm not saying the answer is to quit banking. For some, it may be to get into banking. I don't know. But what we're, I think, hoping to provide is a forum where people will be able to explore and be in a safe zone where they'll be able to investigate, go, discover, think about, learn new techniques to be able to uncover what they may not have ever before been able to get their hands on. And that's why it's valuable to spend just a couple days, is it 3 days, I think, out of a whole lifetime or out of a whole year to really be thoughtful about what's next. Like in corporate America, we spend time doing strategic planning, and that time we get out of the day-to-day to look ahead 3 to 5 years. And that time is very important. So this is maybe like creating a strategic vision for your next level in life. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's important? So I think it's highly important and a wonderful gift that people can give themselves to give themselves these days to spend time immersed in this experience with like-minded people who are interested in figuring out more about themselves.
I think that that's exactly why your work is so important, because in a short period of time that I met you, you're able to walk people through that discovery. Tapping into the part of your brain that we know deep inside ourselves what we're here to do. It's just that we're so inundated with the everyday today life that we just don't tap into that. So that I was able to tap into that part when I met you, and you walk us through some exercises that you do. And I think that when people come to the event, they're gonna have more opportunities to actually tap into that part of themselves, because we all know the answers. We all know what we're good at. We all know what we love to do. It's just that we don't know how to make money on it, or we think that that's not really the way that our life's purpose is. So I look forward of seeing what else you could teach us and show us, man, because it's really truly an honor that you're gonna be around us and show us the next level in our lives.
Great, I look forward to it.
So, I definitely want to honor and keep this interview short, but could you give us one insight if somebody's looking at this and say, you know what, I wanna tap into my creative side. What's the one little exercise or one insight that you could tell people that they could do immediately so they could have a return in their time?
Well, I think that the process that I use is unique, and it's based in psychology, and it's been around for since the 1950s, where it was first discovered at Caltech. So to be able to do that, you really have to learn how to do it first. But I think what would be helpful if people were to think about what they want in life, and if they pose that question, what do I want with the rest of my life? And then it's a great question to pose, but it's even more important to write it down, because sometimes we think about these things and they swirl around in our head, but until we write it down, we don't really ever make progress to making it happen. And then the plus will be when at the session that we'll be working on this material, I'm going to give them this methodology, which is actually in my TED Talk. So if they wanted to watch my Tedx Talk, under titled Discovering Unlocking Your Brain's Hidden App, actually Unlocking Your Brain's Hidden App, it will show you what this methodology is, but it's very unique because it's a specific way of activating the right hemisphere of the brain. And then what we'll do is we'll give them a different perspective from their own brain on that same question, amongst other things. But I think what we find is oftentimes we're afraid, for varying reasons, to pursue. We may know what we want, but we're afraid to pursue it for various reasons. And what we're going to discover is why that's the case. In the hundreds of interviews that I did with individuals in a very short period of time, generally an hour or two, we're able to cut to the chase and figure out what those barriers and obstacles are that keep us from getting what we want. So we'll be able to go in and see what the barrier is from getting to people, helping people get to what they really want in life.
If you will say, how long did it take you to learn this technique? How long have you been studying this? The interviews and everything that you've done?
I initially learned this in therapy, and my therapist gave me a book by Dr. Lucia Capagnoni that was written 25, 30 years ago. And so I read that book and started integrating, like you did, that methodology into my journaling. So it's been 16 years that I've been practicing it. And by far and away, both in my role as CEO of the bank, but also in my personal life, I've never learned anything more valuable. It's helped me in decision making, whether it's a big decision or a little decision. It's just been very valuable. Because it offers a truly unique perspective, and as we mentioned, it's coming from your own brain.
The reason I ask is because people sometimes they don't understand that putting these events, what are we actually doing is condensing years into days. Like your 16 years of experience mastering this, and you're able to teach this in a couple of days to an individual. I mean, that's just, you can't buy that stuff. That's the reason I'm so excited of learning, because I'm learning from people that have been doing things for a long time, and I am taking advantage of their experience, condensing decades into days. I was recently with Richard Branson last month in his island, and I spent a week with him, and I was able to extract some of the knowledge that he has, and I felt like I was like a little bee, extracting so much information from his brain as much as I could every chance I get, because that's what we should be doing. We should be learning from people like you, 16 years mastering this, and now we're able to just tap into that and just give us the best that has worked for you, so we could apply it. So definitely is a huge honor to have that.
Well, I think that oftentimes in life, the really valuable insights that we get are oftentimes very simple, easy ones. But until we have busy lives, right? So most of us don't have the time, don't take the time to really see what's out there. And so we're busy with family and kids and jobs and second jobs, maybe even. So we're kind of caught up in this vicious circle of sorts. And so what the opportunity is for people to hit the pause button and be able to rethink what's important, where they're going, why they're going, what's in the way, how to remove that. So to have the luxury of doing that for 3 days could be, as you mentioned, it may be one of the most valuable gifts anybody could ever receive from themselves, is that luxury of time to just explore, go within, and figure out where the path goes, as you said, to get to the next level.
Absolutely, man. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time, and especially taking the time of your busy schedule to come down to New York and join us, because I believe this is a calling. I believe that people like you and I are called to awaken people to really live their lives to the next level and take their life to the next level, because so many people drift through life, and one day we wake up, it's like, what happened to our lives? It's like, time just flew by, and I've been called to really wake people up so they could live their true potential. That's the reason that I'm so intense on getting people like you to come in and play, because I believe that we're changing lives. And people who come into the event, their lives are going to be completely transformed because of the intention and the space that we create in 3 days. I believe that change could happen in a second, as long as we're surrounded with the right people. Proximity is power. Being around people has changed my life. Being around the right people has completely transformed my life. So I want to thank you, Bill, for taking the time. And can you give us your website so people can know a little bit more about you before they come to the event?
Sure. It's the web address is William Donius, DONIUS.com, and my Tedx Talk is actually on that site as well. So that's an easy one-stop, WilliamDonius.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And anybody who's watching this, I'm going to post it in the Facebook page. We really haven't opened the Next Level Experience to the public because we almost sold out. But this week, I'm going to open it up for a couple of people who probably I don't know. And if you're watching this and you don't know me, just fill out the application. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if this is for you. Until next time, learn it, live it, experience it, love life.